Hello everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to Versus Series, where a member of my team, Acebreakers, plays against a well-known or up-and-coming pro player. This week we have the return of Colma, who was the first person to beat an Acebreaker on Versus Series. Now, before we get going, obligatory announcement, as I've said in the past couple videos, I am doing a budget format tournament for SoulForge on the 10th, which is a Friday, and I've actually got some prize support for it from Stoneblade. So if you're interested in getting involved in SoulForge or trying it out, go over there. I'll put the link to the website with the tournament information in the description. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Alright, so on to the first two decks. Fire has brought a priest list. Now, this appears to be a slightly more controlling list. It seems to be a derivative of some of the tempo lists. The big late game bomb here is Ysera, whereas a lot of these lists don't run a big late game threat, and they just run some tempo cards. And they just win through tempo and eventually push damage. So we have got the single Ysera in there, one Mind Control, which has been quite popular recently, and double Sludge Belcher, Loetheb's the standard 5-drop. So we've got a couple of interesting cards, mostly in the late game, but besides that, nothing too out of the ordinary as far as priest lists are concerned. Now, Colma is opening with some abomination of a warrior deck. This is what he's known for. He's known for bringing something weird to his I don't understand half of his warrior lists. They work though. Anyway, so this particular concoction has a Battle Rage in it, 2 Blood Cell Raiders, we have a double pair of Shade of Naxxramas, and a 1 Chillwind Yeti, 1 Azure Drake, 1 of each of the 6-drops, and a Grommash. I have no idea what to make a comment on this. Apparently it's mid-range, but I guess we'll have to see how it goes. I think the shades are going to be interesting. The Battle Rage can be very good in certain situations, especially with Whirlwind and Deathbite. But I'm not quite sure how this is going to pan out. It does remind me a bit of Tempo Warrior, just kind of derivative of Tempo Warrior. So, on to the mulligans. We have Colma going first, who is going to send back, I think, everything apart from the War Axe. And we have Fire is keeping the Orkanite and the Thoughtsteel and Wild Pyro. Interesting choice to keep the Orkanite. I guess he's doing that because he is in fact going second. Now, Colma did go ahead and keep the Acolyte of Pain. I can understand why he wouldn't, because he's against Priest, so could just get Shadow Word Pained, but you do need that early draw, so he has gone ahead and kept it. Oh, we have Golden Battle Rage. I've actually never seen a Golden Battle Rage before. That looks really, really cool. It's one of those golden animations which very few people ever see. Alright, first couple turns are pretty obvious here. I would say Fire is fairly fortunate that he got that Dark Cultist, because otherwise this would have been really awkward. I mean, he could have Shadow Word Pained, I guess. Speaking of top decks, I think using the Execute here is actually fine. It seems a bit like a waste, but in reality, I think the bigger waste is actually the Cruel Taskmaster, but it still works out. I think I'd Thoughtsteel here. You want to save Shadow Word Pain for Armor Smiths or Acolytes. Now, he did in fact get a Death Spite off of that Thoughtsteel, so we'll have to see how that turns out. I think you have to play the Acolyte at this point. You might be able to assume he doesn't have Shadow Word Pain, which in reality is not true, but sometimes you just have to take that risk. Alright, so he's going for the Death Spite, and next turn he'll go for the Shadow Word Pain. Now the reason for this is because he has that 2-3 for 2, known as the Pirate that gains a bunch of damage from weapons. So Colma hasn't got a good hand right now. It's very situational. If a Sludge Belcher comes out, it's really good. But what we're going to see here is we're going to see the Shadow Word Pain, and I should imagine we're also going to see the 2-3 come out here, the Raider. He could... I think you do. Play the Raider, trades 1-for-1 with the Axe essentially. You're really far ahead on card advantage. And I think I'd also play the Northshire. Actually no. Next turn you have 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure if I would have played the Northshire there. I mean, you can assume it's going to live. Slight mistake there to play it out before the Death Bite Whirlwind. I mean the Northshire, you had to play the Bloodsoul Raider to get the trigger. He's trying to bait Colma into making the wrong decision. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and take the damage. That's fine. He was on 32 life. Taking the damage is absolutely fine here. Now we do see that Orkanai. Make sure that's a 1-for-1 trade. Orkanai is going to be essential here because it does so much damage and just is such a large output of card advantage. Oh, we have a second axe. The problem is that killing this Orkanai is going to take way too much effort. His opponent's also getting pretty low. So yeah, he's going to Battle Rage to cycle here. Whirlwind will do it. It's a shame he didn't draw Whirlwind first. I mean, ultimately with Battle Rage you just want 2 cards. If you can get 2 cards, it's a good rate. Sometimes you get 3, but it's unlikely, and 1 is not amazing. But you can often get 2 cards. That's why it's in the deck. I've played around with Battle Rage a bit in the past. It's an interesting one. Alright, so he's just going face. He's trying to go for lethal. Because his opponent has an Orkanai on the board, so he can't heal himself. So he's just going straight for face, trying to kill him. So he's going to sack off his Orkanai here. And the Sludge Belcher top deck is pretty huge. I mean, it's just going to die to Black Knight here, along with the Axe. But it still helps a lot. Having to skip the Shade is a little irritating here for Colma. But he does clear out that Sludge Belcher without too much effort. Chris, like, he just doesn't have a good play here, Fire. Yeah, the draw doesn't do much. He is dead to a couple of things right now. See what's on the top of the deck. He's dead to 4 cards from what I can think of. No, 3. Execute. I think you have to execute the 4/5. And then just play the Shade. Empty your hand here. I think he's missed his window though. I think that was the only window he could have got. And Holy Fire off the top. That's crazy. Yeah, this game is over. I don't see a way back from this. Even Grom would not do it right now. Holy Fire, Shadow Word, Death would kill it. And a Whirlwind is what comes off the top. Wow. Now, at this point, I think we're just going to see the Ysera because like, he knows he has very little reach. Maybe it was a slight mistake to go for that as opposed to going for some sort of other play with Holy Fire, or maybe just healing up. Alright, so we're going to see a Whirlwind come out here. See what he draws. Cruel Taskmaster, that's a good draw. Well, it just cycles at this point, but that is absolutely fine. And Cairn. Cairn will be useful coming up to later turns. Oh, we have a Mind Control. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and, I should imagine Holy Fire here. And then play the Drake. Maybe a bit excessive on healing up that much. I don't know, he does have the Mind Control, so we can just take control of anything. So we're probably going to see the Cairn come down here. It depends a lot on what he draws though. Yeah, Karen Yeti. Very good turn against priests. But in this case, Mind Control is going to say, that's my Karen now, and then he's just going to go ahead and clear this Yeti. This Ysera has done a lot of work. It's drawn 3 cards and has essentially killed several cards so far. So this Ysera has done a lot of work. As we see the second Sage, yes, no, the second Shade come down here, but I'm thinking it's a little too late at this point. Oh, Power Word Shield cycling. Yeah, he's going for the Laughing Sister heal here. Now at this point, I think it's Brawl or Bust. He's healed too much. He has in fact healed too much. I think this game is now over. There was one turn where if Colma had top decked one of 3 outs, he would have won. But this game is too far gone now. Too much healing. I mean, he's going to stay in this game for a couple more turns because he's not quite dead yet. But I don't really see a way of winning this. There's been 4 dream cards so far. I think he may just have lethal. Dream. If he dreams a Sludge Belcher, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 18, plus 5, 23. He had 25 damage. That was a mistake. Yeah, that was a mistake. He should have Power Word Shielded. He should have Power Word Shielded first. Maybe there was a way of getting lethal there. He was 1 damage off. He was 1 damage off and he would have had 4 mana remaining. Is there any card he could have had there? Yeah, he could have got Holy Fire for lethal. So that was a slight mistake on Fire's end there, but overall, that was a game which could have gone Colma's way, but it didn't in the end. He didn't top deck one of his 3 outs, and then Fire got the massive amount of healing, and that's sort of why, that's always why aggroing Priest is a bit risky, because if you miss your window, they often just heal out of the situation they're in, and that's exactly what happened there. Anyway, so Colma has brought in a Secrets Mad Scientist Mage. Now, I say secrets, there are 2 counterspells, 2 mirror entities, no duplicates, which is interesting. Duplicate is often played in these kinds of decks because it is literally 0 mana draw 2 in a lot of situations. The problem with it is your opponent has to trigger it by killing one of your guys, so you have to be winning for it to work. It's kind of awkward. Counterspell is very, very good. If you get it for 0, it just is a 1 for 0, basically. Mirror Entity will actually break certain matchups. It is quite amusing to watch a Druid play a Ancient of War into a Mirror Entity, because they just don't expect it. It does happen. Mirror Entity is a lot more popular now because I think people have started realizing that if you get it for free off Mad Scientist or Kirin Tor, it's really good. If you don't, you have to play it out, it's a bit meh, but if you get it for free, it's really good. As to the rest of the deck, we've got 1 Polymorph, 1 Blizzard, 1 Flame Strike. I like the 1 Blizzard, 1 Flame Strike. Flame Strike is better, but it's a little slower, so having 1 of each is often quite good. No Black Knight in this deck, which I'm guessing is because of the Fireballs and the Polymorphs. And besides that, we have an Undertaker engine, which is a singular Harvest Golem, interesting. 2 Loot Hoarders, 2 Mad Scientists, and a Blood Mage as the Death Rattles. It's a very interesting deck. It reminds me of a couple of things I was actually trying out when Mad Scientist debuted. The problem was there was so many hunters, you couldn't really get it to work. So, very interested to see how Colma's take on it ends up working. Alright, on to the mulligans. Now, Crispy is going to send back, not Crispy, Fire. I always used to Priest being Crispy. Anyway, so he's going to send back the whole hand, because Frostbolt is a thing. And as for Colma, I think if there was a secret in there, he probably would have kept the Kirin Tor, possibly. The problem is that he wants to play out Mad Scientist, But he's also going second, so he could get a turn 2 Kirin Secret. So it's debatable as to what's the correct mulliganing there. But yeah, it is quite amusing that whenever an Acebreaker player is on playing Priest, it's usually crispy. So it's like a mental twig. Dark Cultist, yeah, that's a pretty good start, I would say. Normally I would play Water Elemental, but I think I'd actually just Frostbolt this. Yeah, I think I'd Frostbolt and then coin Hero Power. Yeah, that's what he's doing. I agree with this entirely. You have a nice curve moving forward, and if you play Water Elemental, then you just lose your Undertaker for free, basically, from Cultist, and you could lose your Water Elemental to a Shadow Word Pain, and that's just a 1-for-1, and then he heals, so you just get 2-for-1, so it's not worth it. But as a result, Fire has a really, really bad turn now, and this is where that single play is probably going to tempo him to death. There's no Shadow Word Pain here. It is only a one-off, so you kind of have to suffer for playing as a one-off a lot of the time. Alright, so we're going to see the Circle of Healing combo come down here. And in response, we have a Sludge Belcher. Sludge Belcher, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Sludge Belcher is also a death rattle. It doesn't often come up, but sometimes the Undertaker lives this long. But this Undertaker is going to become a 3-4 and then a 4-5. If it becomes a 4-5, then that is a single threat on its own that will actually kill him. So yeah, he's playing out the Sludge Belcher, getting more buffs, going face with everything. No reason to attack the 4-7 when it's just going to be running into a Sludge Belcher. The only thing that can punish him for this is actually like Shadow Madness, I think. Yeah, Shadow Madness would probably do it. Would it? No, it wouldn't do much. But we do have a Wild Pyro combo, which is going to come down and clear a lot of this. Now, you definitely kill the Water Elemental here, I think. Actually, I think I may have killed the Water Elemental there. Simply because it has higher life. Yeah, I think I would have killed the Water Elemental there, definitely. It means that he can't just go for that super easy free trade. And Mirror Entity. Running straight into it. This is one of the reasons why Mirror Entity is so good right now. It's very easy to run straight into it. Now, Colma has a couple of options here. I think Sludge Belcher is fine. Sludge Belcher, Hero Power, kill his Orkanai. I think that's the one I like the most. Yep, that's what he's going for. Do you trade? Yeah, I think that's fine. He's got the Arcane Intellect, he can go for the long run. I think you have to go for the... Yeah, going for the Orkanai is sketchy at best, but kind of necessary. Oh, we're going to see a hard cast counterspell. I think we actually do, and it's backbreaking at this point. Counterspell is going to kill him. It's going to get in another 7. And I don't think there's a response here. He just has to kind of go for the Holy Fire, and if it's Counterspell, he loses. But he can't go for the Holy Fire because his Orkanai will kill him. He's dead on board, I think. 7, 8, 9, yeah. Don't think he's quite realized yet. Yeah, he's dead on board. He needed to Holy Fire after killing his Orkanai with his own hero power to survive that turn. But that game was more or less over. And that was a very fast game. And it's kind of an example of how fast the Secrets Mage can be, because it is playing a very aggressive start. One thing I forgot to mention though, no Mana Worms in this list, which is interesting because you'd think Mana Worm would fit perfectly in this kind of list, and is Traditionally, I would say the stronger 1-drop between it and Undertaker because it grows much faster. The problem is that after 2 triggers, Undertaker is better, but it's harder to get those 2 triggers. I think in this case it was more of a space issue where he has to pick between 2 1-drops and one of them utilizes the fact that he has to play things like Loot Hoarder, whereas the other one doesn't really, and the only spells it's triggering off are Secrets and Arcane Intellect and Frostball. So I can definitely see why he went for the Undertaker and over the Mana Worm. And if you're going to be playing, I think it depends on the kind of list you're playing. If you're playing some extra Death Rattles, go for the Undertaker. If you're playing a few extra spells, like maybe Arcane Missiles or something, go for the Mana Worms instead. Anyway, Fire has brought forward a Druid ramp list for the 3rd and final game of this week's episode. This is one of these single most, like, anti-handlock decks I've seen in a while when it comes to a ramp. Double BGH to start things off. Now, this is going to be a problem for him. Keep in mind, these lists are pre-made, so you can't just change it, even though the BGHs do nothing in this matchup. Lists are pre-made. So, the double BGHs are going to be blanks. They can be 4-2s, which is fairly relevant, actually. A 4-2 will trade with almost anything, and dies to the same thing as a 3-3, which is Frostball, but not much else. So, 4-2 may actually be better stats than a 3-3 in this particular matchup. As for the rest of it, Keeper of the Grove and Druid of the Claws, along with Sen'jin and Sludge Belcher, are going to be very, very, very essential here. Especially the taunts. There are no Black Knights in this particular mage list. So the double Ancient War could pose some issues. Besides that, 2 late game cards, Cenarius and Rag. I think Rag is pretty bad in this matchup. Cenarius is going to be fairly good. Rag is really bad in this matchup for a couple of reasons. One, it plays a bunch of really small guys, and the other reason is because of Mirror Entity. But the Cenarius and the taunts may be enough just to sort of pull him through. We'll have to see. So anyway, on to the mulligans. Now, we do have Fire going second. He's going to keep the Keeper, and that's about it. As for Colma, I think you mulligan the whole thing here. You want creatures, you want threats. That's something which is interesting. You often have to play the mage deck as a sort of light on threats, but the threats have to be good. Because you have ways of protecting your threats, but you need to actually play the threats in the first place to get value out of them. Now, this hand is interesting. He's got 3 4-drops and the Wild Growth, plus 2 swipes. So basically his entire hand is 4-drops. That is absurdly awkward. I'll see Counter Spell come down here. I think we're going to see a Keeper, and the question is, does he silence or does he kill? This is... I want to point out this is turn 3. And there is not a good play in his hand. I think you actually silence the Undertaker. Like, you could run out the coin here. No, I think you play Keeper, silence the Undertaker. If it's Mirror Entity, that's unfortunate. If it isn't, then you know it's a counterspell because you've seen a counterspell. Actually, have you? No, I don't think he played a counterspell. Well, he did play counterspell, but it wasn't triggered. So that's annoying for Fire here. However, the coin will negate that counterspell. Yep, as we are currently seeing the fully fledged low threat, high power level lock here coming out. Now we're gonna see the coin first, bait out that counterspell, and then a swipe killing a lot of stuff. Not killing the Mad Scientist though, which is actually important. Depending on what Colma gets, Fire could actually stabilize here. The problem is that there's a Loatheb. Loatheb is one of the best... Well, personally I think it's one of the best cards in the game, just in general. But for aggro strategies, it can actually be backbreaking. Because you play your Loatheb and your opponent has no removal for your swarms of creatures. You have to play Sen'jin here. I think you play Sen'jin... I think I would have played Sen'jin and Hero Power. Him having a secret is fine, I want to say. Yeah, him having a secret is fine because you can kill the Loatheb with other means. You can either kill it with Swipe or Keeper of the Grove. So Karen's coming down here, no Keeper, so there's no way of efficiently answering this, and he's down to 11. At this point, I'm not really sure what you do. I think you have to go for the Swipe trade and just hope for the best at this point. He's going for the Cenarius next turn. That could buy him some time. It depends a lot on how powerful Colma's next turn is. Mad Scientist and Sludge Belcher. I think that might be the straw that breaks the back of fire here. Innervate, does that actually do anything here? He's thinking about it, but no, it actually doesn't do anything. You could Black Knight Senjin. Actually, Black Knight Senjin absorbs the same amount of damage. I think that was a slight mistake. You're still dead to like, you're dead to Fireball anyway, so you can't play around it. You need to actually play in a way. It's like, if he has it, I'm dead anyway because it's only stalls for one turn. If he doesn't have it, then I'm not dead. That's the way you should be playing it, I think, at this point. But this game, yeah, the Sylvanas as well. Yeah, this game is over. I don't see a way back from this. I think if he wanted a hope, he would have had to go for the Black Knight Innervate Senjin last turn. But no, he's just going to go ahead and concede. That was a pretty one-sided set of games, the last two at least. And I guess that really does show just how fast that mage deck can be. I mean, the first game was a very grindy game, where it was sort of Warrior tried to put on the pressure, and then got pushed back, and then the pretty slowly grinded it out with Visera. It's interesting to notice that in all three games, Fire was the defensive player, and in the first game he stabilized, and in the other two he didn't. Whereas Colma was always the aggressive player, and I think that really does show quite a variety in playstyles between these two players. So Colma played the aggressor in all three games. In the first game it didn't work out, however, I think the mage deck is very good at pressuring these control decks. It's something which I did actually find when I was running the duplicate mage, because they have to kill your threats, otherwise you just hit them. They don't have creatures that you have to trade with a lot of the time. So they'd have to kill it and their duplicates win the game. But if you think about it, the entire Secrets Mage is, I would say, is the best aggro deck against control. Completely. And a lot of it isn't aggro. There's like Sylvanas, Karen, Sludge Belchers, but there's all the early game threats are difficult to answer, and if they aren't answered, they do a lot of damage, which means the deck can just become a straight aggro deck. It's a mid-range deck that can become a straight aggro deck if it has the right rules. With Undertakers and Counterspell and things like that. Counterspell and Mirror Entity, I would say, are the best anti-control secrets, along with Duplicate. If you want to run an anti-control deck completely, I think Duplicate is slightly better than Counterspell. However, Duplicate is nowhere near as good against non-control decks, which is why the Counterspell is in there. Better in general, less focused, and when you're bringing it to something which you don't know your opponent's list ahead of time, you need to have a little bit more variety in your list to sort of prepare for every situation. So Counterspell is definitely the better one overall. But we'll have to see moving forward, because the Secrets Mage will probably get more support when the next set comes out, simply because Secrets is something that Mage does. So we'll have to see how it moves forward from there. But at the moment the deck looks pretty strong, and with the absence of Hunters and a lot of Flare, there are some Hunters, the aggro Hunters mostly, but with the absence of Flare in almost every single game, it means that you can get away with Kirin Mages that just dump 3 mana secrets for free, and then you get a free Mirror Entity. Free Mirror Entity is backbreaking. Paying 0 mana for your opponent's card is absurd sometimes, and it really does show that you can just lock out these control decks. That's what we showed in the last 2 games. Just the first couple threats, along with a couple secrets, just locked out the game from the control deck's point of view, and just couldn't respond to the damage coming in. But anyway. Overall, it was actually a pretty interesting series. It definitely did show the difference between defensive play and offensive play, and sometimes it doesn't go the way of the offensive player. Defensive player, if they stabilize, they win. If they don't, they tend to die. So you end up with longer games, the control player wins. Shorter games, the aggro player wins. Anyway, so that's about it for this week. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. And as for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.